The most painful betrayal in life is not when an enemy turns against you, but when the person you trusted the most reveals who they truly are. Long ago, in an ancient forest hidden beneath endless trees, a mysterious conversation took place beneath the silver light of the moon. A snake lived there with his wife beneath the roots of an old tree that had stood for countless years. The forest was quiet, the night air was calm, and yet the question in the snake's wife's heart was heavier than the silence around them. She looked at her husband and asked a question that every person eventually wonders: is there anyone in this world who can be trusted completely? Is there a friend so loyal that you can close your eyes and place your entire faith in them? The snake remained silent for a moment before answering. His voice was calm, but his words carried a warning. He said that friendship is one of the most precious relationships in the world, but not every person who smiles beside you is truly your friend. Some people stay close because of love, respect, and loyalty. But others remain near only because they are waiting for an opportunity to benefit from your trust. The snake explained that the true nature of a person is not revealed during peaceful times. When life is easy, many people can appear kind. Many can make promises. Many can speak beautiful words. But when a difficult choice appears, when someone must choose between personal gain and the person who trusted them, their real character begins to show. His wife listened carefully and asked, "But what about friendships that have lasted for many years? Can even those relationships be broken?" The snake looked toward the dark forest and answered that time alone does not prove loyalty. Years of friendship can create memories, but only actions reveal the truth. A person may walk beside you for a lifetime and still fail you when temptation appears. He then told his wife that there are 3 types of people everyone should recognize. They are not always easy to identify because they often appear friendly, supportive, and caring. They know how to speak the right words and create a feeling of trust. But when circumstances change, their hidden intentions become visible. The snake said that this lesson was not about one person or one moment. It was about understanding human nature and learning the difference between someone who truly cares and someone who only stays close for personal reasons. Deep inside the ancient forest, beneath the branches and the moonlight, the warning had been given. Soon, the snake would tell the story of a man named Kishan, a kind and honest person who believed he had 3 lifelong friends. He believed that years of friendship were stronger than any problem he could face. He believed that when he needed help the most, those friends would stand beside him without hesitation. But he was about to discover a painful truth: sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who have the greatest power to hurt our hearts. This is the story of Kishan, a man who learned that true friendship is not measured by years, promises, or words. It is measured by what someone does when you need them the most. A person's true character is not revealed when they have everything they need, but when someone else desperately needs their help. In the beautiful kingdom of Betrayal, surrounded by endless green fields and peaceful villages, there lived a wise and respected king named Vikram Singh. The kingdom was known for its prosperity, but more importantly, it was known for the kindness of its ruler. King Vikram Singh cared deeply about his people. Whether someone was wealthy or poor, anyone could come before him and share their problems. The king listened carefully and always tried to find a fair solution. However, there was one special rule that made his way of helping people different from ordinary generosity. The king never simply handed out assistance without understanding the person who asked for it. Whenever someone came seeking help, he would first ask a meaningful question. If the person answered correctly, the king would provide the support they requested. If they could not answer, the king would still offer kindness, but they would not receive the reward they hoped for. This rule was not created to embarrass anyone. Instead, the king believed that wisdom and honesty were just as valuable as wealth. In this same kingdom lived a man named Kishan, a poor but respected Brahmin who worked hard to support his family. He lived with his wife Sulochana and their children in a simple home. Kishan did not own great riches, but he was known throughout the village for his honesty, humility, and good heart. People respected him because he treated everyone with kindness and never took advantage of others. For many years, Kishan had lived peacefully, believing that a person's reputation and relationships were the greatest treasures they could have. But one evening, as the sun began to disappear and the village became quiet, Kishan sat outside his home with a worried expression on his face. A heavy concern filled his mind. His daughter's wedding was approaching, and although he had spent years preparing for this important moment, almost all of his savings had already been used. The responsibility of giving his daughter a proper wedding filled him with anxiety. Seeing her husband's sadness, Sulochana sat beside him and gently asked what was troubling him. Kishan finally shared his worries. He wanted to fulfill his duty as a father and make sure the wedding was arranged with care, but he no longer knew where he could find the remaining money. Sulochana listened patiently and reminded him that he was not alone. She told him that he had 3 old friends who had stood beside him for many years. Perhaps this was the moment to seek their help. Hearing this, Kishan's face slowly changed. A small feeling of hope returned to his heart. He remembered the friendships he had built over a lifetime. He believed those bonds were strong enough to survive any difficult moment. Kishan thought about Dhanraj, Haridas, and Madhav. These 3 men had shared memories with him since childhood. They had laughed together, supported each other, and walked through many stages of life side by side. To Kishan, they were not just friends. They were like family. He believed that if there was anyone who would understand his situation, it would be them. The next morning, with renewed hope, Kishan prepared himself to visit his 3 friends. He did not know that this journey would reveal a truth he had never imagined. He believed he was walking toward help, but destiny was preparing to show him the difference between people who speak like friends and people who truly act like friends. Sometimes the hardest moment in life is not facing a problem alone, but discovering whether the people you trusted will truly stand beside you. The morning sun rose over the peaceful village of Bertapur as Kishan began his journey to meet the 3 friends he believed would save him from his greatest worry. His heart was filled with hope because he was not searching for strangers. He was going to people who had shared years of memories with him. To Kishan, friendship was a promise that lasted beyond difficult times. His first destination was the home of Dhanraj, a successful businessman who had known Kishan since childhood. Dhanraj had built a comfortable life and was respected throughout the village. When Kishan arrived, Dhanraj welcomed him with a smile and asked why he had come so early. Kishan sat down and slowly explained his situation. He told his old friend about his daughter's upcoming wedding and the financial burden he was carrying. He explained that he had used his savings for the preparations and needed temporary help to complete everything properly. Dhanraj immediately placed a comforting hand on Kishan's shoulder and assured him that there was no need to worry. He said that a true friend could never ignore another friend during a difficult time. Hearing those words, Kishan felt a wave of relief. He believed his problem was already close to being solved. When Dhanraj asked how much money he needed, Kishan humbly explained the amount required and promised that he would slowly repay everything. Dhanraj paused for a moment and then explained that much of his money was currently invested in his business. He said he did not have enough available at that exact moment, but he promised that he would arrange the money within 2 days. Kishan smiled because, to him, the promise itself was a sign of friendship. He thanked Dhanraj and left with confidence. Next, Kishan visited Haridas, his second old friend, who worked as a farmer outside the village. When Haridas saw him approaching, he welcomed him warmly and reminded Kishan how long it had been since they had spent time together. Kishan shared the same problem, hoping that his friend might have a solution. Haridas listened carefully and immediately said that he wanted to help. However, after thinking for a moment, he admitted that he did not have enough money available. Instead, he suggested that Kishan meet a wealthy man named Seth Govind who might be willing to provide assistance. Together, they visited Seth Govind, but the offer came with conditions that Kishan could not easily accept. The repayment terms would create another heavy burden. Seeing Kishan's hesitation, Haridas told him not to worry and promised that he would continue searching for another way. Once again, Kishan felt grateful. Even though he had not received the money, he believed his friend's willingness to help proved his loyalty. As the day continued, Kishan held on to one final hope, his closest friend, Madhav. Among all three friendships, the bond between Kishan and Madhav seemed the strongest. They had grown up together, supported each other through many seasons of life, and shared countless memories. Kishan believed that if anyone would truly understand his situation, it would be Madhav. With renewed confidence, he walked toward Madhav's home, unaware that the greatest test of friendship was waiting for him there. He believed he was approaching the person who would protect him from his troubles. But soon, he would learn that the deepest disappointment often comes not from strangers, but from the people we believe we know best. The most dangerous illusion in friendship is believing that someone's beautiful words always reveal a beautiful heart. After visiting Dhanraj and Haridas, Kishan still carried hope in his heart. Although neither friend had given him the money he needed, both had spoken with kindness and promised that they would find a way. To Kishan, those promises were proof that his friendships were still strong. He did not judge them by what they had done yet, but by the trust he had built over many years. Now there was only one person left. The friend he believed understood him better than anyone else. That person was Madhav. Their friendship was different from the others. They had known each other since childhood, shared countless memories, and supported one another through many stages of life. Kishan believed that if anyone could truly understand his situation, it would be Madhav. With this belief, he arrived at Madhav's home carrying a heart full of confidence. Madhav was sitting outside, looking through some personal notes when he noticed Kishan approaching. He immediately stood up, smiled warmly, and welcomed his old friend. He asked why Kishan had come to visit after so long. Kishan sat beside him and explained everything once again. He spoke about his daughter's wedding, the preparations, and the pressure he felt because he still needed more money. Then he looked at Madhav and asked for temporary help. He promised that he would repay everything slowly once his situation improved. Madhav immediately held his hand and responded with comforting words. He said Kishan should not worry because they were not ordinary friends. He said a friend was like family, and he could never ignore someone who had trusted him for so many years. Hearing this, Kishan felt deeply relieved. His eyes showed gratitude because he believed his final hope had been answered. He told Madhav that he knew he would not disappoint him. Madhav smiled and said he would arrange the money, but he needed a little time because his own resources were currently tied up in his business. He asked Kishan to return after 2 days and promised that he would find a solution. Kishan accepted this without doubt. To him, Madhav's words were enough. He returned home and shared the good news with his wife Sulochana. He told her that all three of his friends had promised to help in their own way. For the first time in many days, he felt peaceful. He believed the difficult moment was passing because the people closest to him had stood beside him. But while Kishan was returning home with renewed confidence, something very different was happening elsewhere. The three friends he trusted were meeting together. Behind closed doors, their conversations revealed a side of them that Kishan had never imagined. Instead of discussing how to help him, they were thinking about how his difficult situation could benefit them. They knew Kishan needed money quickly, and they understood that his land was something he valued deeply. Slowly, their true intentions began to appear. The friendship Kishan believed was protecting him was becoming the very thing that placed him in danger of losing what mattered most. The promises that gave him hope were only words, and soon Kishan would discover the painful difference between someone who says they care and someone who truly proves it through their actions. The greatest betrayal is not when someone refuses to help you, but when someone pretends to stand beside you while secretly waiting for your weakness to become their opportunity. That night, beneath the quiet sky of Bertapur, the truth behind Kishan's three friendships began to slowly reveal itself. While Kishan returned home with a peaceful heart, believing that his lifelong friends would protect him during his hardest moment, Dhanraj, Haridas, and Madhav gathered together away from the village. The same people who had spoken words of comfort to Kishan were now discussing his situation from a completely different perspective. Dhanraj looked at the others and asked what they should do next. Kishan had already come to each of them for help, and now they needed to decide how they could use his difficult situation to their advantage. Herodotus appeared uncertain because he understood that what they were planning was not an act of friendship. He worried about what would happen if Kishan discovered their true intentions. But Madhav, the person Kishan trusted the most, remained confident. He reminded them that Kishan believed in them completely. That trust, they realized, was the very reason their plan could succeed. They knew Kishan cared deeply about his family land. It was not just property to him. It was a memory passed down from his father and a symbol of his family's history. They understood that if they could convince him that there was no other choice, he might eventually agree to use that land as security for the money he needed. Their plan was simple: continue making promises, continue appearing supportive, and slowly push Kishan toward a decision that would benefit them. Meanwhile, Kishan remained unaware of the conversation taking place behind his back. He spent the night believing that his friendships were stronger than his problems. He trusted that difficult circumstances had only brought his friends closer to him. The next morning, he visited Dhanraj, expecting that the promised help would finally arrive. But Dhanraj greeted him with a worried expression and explained that he had tried his best but could not arrange the money yet. He apologized and said unexpected business difficulties had delayed him. Kishan felt disappointed, but he still believed Dhanraj's intentions were good. He thanked him and left without anger. Then he went to Herodotus. Once again, he heard another explanation. Herodotus said he had been trying to find a solution but had not succeeded. However, he reminded Kishan that he would always support him and would find another way if necessary. Kishan appreciated those words and continued to believe that his friend cared. Finally, Kishan went to Madhav, carrying the greatest hope in his heart. Madhav welcomed him and repeated that he would never abandon him. But once again, the money was not available. Instead, Madhav suggested another option. He told Kishan that if he could not receive help from anywhere else, perhaps he could use a part of his land as security. Kishan became quiet. The thought of giving away his father's land, even temporarily, was painful. That land represented his family's memories and everything he had inherited. Madhav spoke gently and said he understood, but sometimes difficult situations required difficult decisions. Kishan left with a heavy heart, still believing Madhav was trying to help him. He did not yet understand that the person offering the solution was also connected to the problem. As he walked home, one thought remained in his mind: perhaps the only person who could truly help him was the wise King Vikram Singh. And soon, Kishan would enter the royal court, where the truth about friendship, trust, and betrayal would finally be revealed. Sometimes the answer we search for outside is hidden inside the words people have already spoken to us. After losing hope of receiving immediate help from his friends, Kishan decided that he could no longer depend only on promises. The wedding of his daughter was approaching, and every passing day brought greater pressure. Although he still believed his friends had good intentions, his heart told him that he needed another path. With humility and respect, Kishan made his way toward the palace of King Vikram Singh, hoping that the wise ruler might provide a solution. As he entered the royal court, Kishan folded his hands and explained his situation. He told the king about his daughter's wedding, the preparations, and the difficulty he faced because he did not have enough resources to complete everything. King Vikram Singh listened carefully. Unlike many rulers who might only look at a person's wealth or status, the king looked at the honesty in their words and the sincerity in their heart. After hearing Kishan's request, the king calmly said that he would help him, but first, according to the rule of his court, Kishan had to answer a question. Kishan accepted immediately. He knew that this was the tradition of the kingdom, and he was ready to give his answer honestly. The king looked at him and asked, "What causes the greatest pain to a person in this world?" He asked whether it was poverty, illness, or something else that created the deepest suffering. Kishan lowered his head and thought carefully. He understood that poverty could create hardship. He understood that illness could bring great difficulty. But after reflecting on his own experience, he gave an answer that came directly from his heart. He said that the pain of betrayal from someone you trust can be greater than any material struggle because it does not only create sadness, it also damages the trust a person carries inside. The king looked at Kishan with interest. He then asked another question. Have you ever had a true friend? Have you ever experienced such betrayal yourself? Kishan answered with confidence. He said that he had 3 friends whom he considered like brothers. He believed they had always supported him and that, during his current difficult moment, they had tried their best to help him. The king asked whether Kishan truly trusted these 3 people without any doubt. Kishan answered immediately that he trusted them completely. The king remained silent for a moment, observing the confidence in Kishan's voice. Then he asked one final question. When does a person truly recognize a genuine friend? Kishan thought carefully before answering. He said that a true friend is not recognized during happy moments, when everything is easy and comfortable. A true friend is revealed during difficult times, when staying beside someone requires effort and sacrifice. The king smiled because Kishan had answered with wisdom beyond his own experience. He told Kishan that his answers were correct. A feeling of relief filled Kishan's heart, and he respectfully asked whether the king would now help him with his daughter's wedding. The king agreed, but before providing assistance, he said that he wanted to meet the 3 friends Kishan trusted so deeply. Kishan was surprised and wondered why the king wanted to meet them. The king simply explained that he wanted to understand the strength of the friendship Kishan believed in so completely. Kishan accepted the request and promised to bring his 3 friends to the palace the following day. As he left the royal court, Kishan felt hopeful again. He believed his problem was finally coming to an end. But he did not yet know that the king's decision to meet those 3 friends would uncover a truth that would completely change the way he understood friendship forever. The most painful moment is not discovering that someone has failed you, but realizing that the person you trusted completely was never standing on your side. The morning after his meeting with King Vikram Singh, Kishan felt a small sense of hope returning to his heart. For the first time in many days, he believed that his daughter's wedding would no longer be surrounded by uncertainty. The wise king had promised to help, but he wanted to meet the 3 friends Kishan trusted so deeply. To Kishan, this request felt natural. He was proud of his friendships and believed that Dhanraj, Haridas, and Madhav would prove their loyalty before the king. Early that morning, Kishan went first to find Dhanraj. When Dhanraj saw him approaching, he smiled and asked why he had arrived so early. Kishan explained that King Vikram Singh had invited all 3 of his friends to the royal court. Dhanraj immediately responded with confidence. He said there was nothing to worry about because they would stand beside Kishan. His words sounded supportive, and Kishan felt grateful. He believed that the friendship he had protected for so many years was finally being recognized. Together, they went to meet Haridas. When Haridas heard the news, he also agreed to go with them. He told Kishan that if the king had requested their presence, they should respectfully appear before him. Haridas spoke like a loyal friend, and once again Kishan felt reassured. Finally, they went to meet Madhav. When Madhav heard that the king wanted to see them, he quickly agreed. He placed a hand on Kishan's shoulder and reminded him that he would always be there. Kishan looked at him with gratitude because, among all 3 friends, Madhav held the deepest place in his heart. He believed their friendship was stronger than any challenge they could face. The next day, all 4 men arrived at the palace of King Vikram Singh. The king observed the 3 friends carefully before speaking. He asked whether they were truly the old friends Kishan had described. Dhanraj stepped forward and said that Kishan was not just a friend but like a brother. Haridas agreed and explained that they had shared many years together. Then Madhav spoke with confidence and claimed that he would do anything for Kishan because their bond was as strong as family. The king listened quietly. Their words sounded noble, but the king knew that words alone could not reveal the truth inside a person's heart. He decided to test their honesty with a simple question. He asked each of them what they would do if Kishan came to them needing financial support and they did not have enough money available. Dhanraj answered immediately that he would find a way to help his friend, even if it required personal sacrifice. Herodas gave a similar answer, saying he could never abandon someone who had trusted him for so many years. Then the king turned toward Madhav. Without hesitation, Madhav said that Kishan was like a brother to him and that he would never allow him to suffer. Hearing these answers, Kishan felt deeply moved. He believed the king had just witnessed the loyalty of his friends. His heart was filled with gratitude, and he felt fortunate to have people who cared for him so much. But while Kishan saw honesty and devotion, King Vikram Singh saw something different. The king understood that people could speak beautiful words in front of others, but true intentions often remained hidden. After the meeting ended, the king quietly called one of his trusted guards. He instructed him to observe the three friends carefully and discover whether their actions matched their promises. The king had a feeling that something important was hidden beneath their confident words. And soon, the truth that Kishan had never imagined would begin to come to light. The hardest truth to accept is that sometimes the person standing closest to you is the one hiding the deepest secret. After King Vikram Singh quietly instructed his guard to observe Dhanraj, Herodas, and Madhav, the palace remained calm on the surface. Kishan returned home believing that his friends had proven their loyalty, but the king understood that real friendship could not be measured by promises spoken in front of others. It had to be revealed through actions when no one was watching. That same evening, the three friends secretly gathered away from the village. The peaceful image they had shown Kishan disappeared, and their true intentions began to emerge. Dhanraj looked at the others and asked what they should do next. He knew Kishan had already reached the king's court, and they worried that their plan might fail if the king decided to help him. Herodas appeared nervous. He understood that if Kishan discovered what they were planning, their friendship and reputation would be destroyed. But Madhav, the friend Kishan trusted more than anyone, remained confident. He reminded them that Kishan believed in them completely. That trust, he said, was the reason they still had control over the situation. They discussed how Kishan's love for his family land could become the key to their plan. They knew that the land was not just valuable property. It was a precious memory connected to Kishan's family and his father's legacy. They believed that if they continued appearing helpful while making Kishan feel there was no other option, he might eventually agree to use the land as security. However, unknown to them, the king's guard was nearby and heard everything. The guard carefully listened as the three men revealed their intentions. He discovered that the friendship Kishan trusted was not built on loyalty, but on personal benefit. Without wasting time, the guard returned to the palace and reported everything to King Vikram Singh. The king listened carefully and remained calm. He had suspected that something was hidden behind their confident words, and now he understood the truth. However, he did not want Kishan to discover the betrayal suddenly without guidance. The king decided that the truth needed to be revealed in a way that would teach Kishan a valuable lesson about trust. The following morning, Kishan was at home thinking about his daughter's wedding when Dhanraj arrived. He acted concerned and asked what the king had said during their meeting. Kishan happily explained that the king was willing to help, but first he wanted to ask more questions. Dhanraj then began planting doubt in Kishan's mind. He suggested that the king's questions might be too difficult and warned that failing to answer could bring embarrassment. Kishan listened quietly but remained determined. He said that he was not concerned about what others might say. His only concern was finding a way to fulfill his responsibility as a father. After Dhanraj left, Herodas arrived and repeated similar concerns. He suggested that Kishan should consider using his land if the king's help did not come. Kishan felt troubled because the land represented something deeply meaningful to him. Later that evening, Madhav visited him as well. The person Kishan trusted the most offered the same suggestion. He gently explained that using a part of the land might be the only solution if everything else failed. Kishan looked at his friend and still believed Madhav was trying to protect him. But the truth was becoming clearer with every passing moment. The people he trusted were slowly guiding him toward the very decision that would benefit them. The next day, Kishan would return to the king's court, unaware that the final answer about his friendships was waiting for him there. The greatest lesson in life is not learning who your enemies are, but discovering who was never truly your friend. The morning arrived quietly in the kingdom of Bhartapur, but inside the royal palace, King Vikram Singh already knew that a difficult truth had to be revealed. He had received the report from his trusted guard, and there was no longer any doubt about the intentions of Dhanraj, Haridas, and Madhav. The three men had spoken beautiful words in front of Kishan, but their actions had shown something completely different. The king understood that Kishan was an honest man who had trusted others because he believed friendship was built on loyalty and respect. The truth would hurt him, but hiding it would only allow the deception to continue. That day, King Vikram Singh invited Kishan and his three friends back to the royal court. When Kishan entered, he looked peaceful because he still believed that the meeting would confirm the loyalty of the people he cared about. Dhanraj, Haridas, and Madhav also arrived with confidence, believing that their previous words would protect them. The king looked at everyone and calmly explained that he wanted to understand the true meaning of friendship. He asked Dhanraj once again whether he had been willing to help Kishan during his difficult time. Dhanraj answered confidently and said that he had always wanted to support his friend. The king then asked Haridas the same question. Haridas repeated that he cared deeply about Kishan and would never want to see him struggle alone. Finally, the king turned toward Madhav. Kishan looked at his oldest friend with hope because he still believed Madhav would prove their bond was stronger than any challenge. Madhav repeated that Kishan was like family and that he had only wanted what was best for him. After listening carefully, King Vikram Singh remained silent for a moment. Then he revealed that his guard had discovered the conversation between the three men. The court became quiet. Kishan looked at his friends in disbelief because the truth was completely different from what he had expected. The king explained that friendship is not proven by promises made in comfortable moments. It is proven by choices made when another person is vulnerable. He told Kishan that his friends had spoken of loyalty but had secretly considered how his difficult situation could benefit them. Kishan felt a deep sadness, not because he had failed to receive money, but because the people he trusted had hidden their true intentions. He looked at Madhav, the friend he had believed in the most, and realized that the deepest disappointment came from the person closest to his heart. King Vikram Singh then turned to the three men and explained that wealth and opportunity can reveal what already exists inside a person. A kind person becomes more generous when given a chance to help. But a selfish person may see another person's difficulty as an opportunity. The king reminded everyone in the court that trust is valuable and should never be given blindly. Kishan lowered his head and reflected on everything that had happened. He remembered the snake's warning about the difference between words and actions. He finally understood that years of friendship alone do not guarantee loyalty. What matters is how someone behaves when there is no reward for being kind. The king then promised to help Kishan complete his daughter's wedding preparations, not because of pity, but because Kishan's honesty and wisdom had proven his true character. As Kishan left the royal court, he carried a painful lesson with him, but he also carried a new understanding of human nature. He learned that losing false friends is not the greatest loss. The greatest loss is spending a lifetime believing in people who never truly valued your trust.